Okay, so how long have you been practicing the Jewish faith?
My whole life.
Your whole life?
52 years.
Wow, 52. Sorry.
What?
Wow.
No kidding. That's what I'm trying to say to you. I'm like 10 years away from dying.
What was your earliest memory of your faith?
I don't know. But here's what I can say is, when I was 5 and a half, I went to Israel for the first time. Been there probably 40 or 50 times since then, but for the first time. And I remember being there with my folks. And the reason why I tell you this is because for me, Israel and my Judaism are very, very much linked together.
Mm-hmm. What religious holidays and holy days do you have in your faith?
Tons. We have 2 high holy days called Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah sometimes as you maybe hear it, but I pronounced it correctly. But so Rosh means head, R-O-S-H. Ha means the, Shana means year. Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur, or Yom Kippur, as you might have heard it mispronounced. Yom Kippur is our Day of Atonement. Those are the 2 high holy days. Then there are 3 pilgrimage festivals. These are all the ones that are mentioned in the Bible. These are hugely important also. Passover is celebrating leaving Egypt, freed from slavery, and then we've got this one called Sukkot, which we're in whatever, and then Shavuot. And then there's 2 other ones, or a bunch of other ones, but the 2 other big ones I mentioned tonight, Purim, which is like Jewish Mardi Gras, and Hanukkah. I grew up in New Orleans, so that's my reference point, yeah. And Hanukkah, which is what we're doing right now.
So which of those holidays or holy days is most important to you?
Most important? How can I choose from amongst all my children? Really? No, one would say that Yom Kippur is the most important day in the Jewish calendar.
Well, what's your personal favorite?
I like Purim. It's like Mardi Gras.
So how does your family celebrate religious holidays and holy days?
When you say my family, you're obviously talking about my wife and children, not talking about my parents, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we do Shabbat or Sabbath stuff, which on Friday night we are around the table. We do the various different prayers of the Sabbath, which takes just a couple minutes to do. They are all mindful. Since I'm a rabbi, they're exceedingly mindful of all Jewish things, all Jewish holidays, because it affects their lives, right? Well, they're asking me, why couldn't I do because I've got to be at the temple for this holiday or that, or, so our family's life functions by the rhythm of the Jewish calendar.
So what restrictions come with practicing your faith?
None, but I was telling the other group before, so this is what's called a Reform synagogue. Reform is like a liberal synagogue. There's Orthodox, and there's other types, but Orthodox is probably the one that's important to know. And so whereas Orthodox has a more strict view of all the rules and laws of Judaism, Reform has a more liberal view of it, in which we observe the things that bring us meaning. And so the question was like, what's the hardest part about it? Is that what the question was? I can't remember.
Yeah, like what restrictions, and then you can say why they're hard.
Okay, so the restrictions are only the things that bring you meaning. If you don't do it unless it's meaningful, and if it's meaningful, could be hard, but there's joy in the difficulty of it, because you're doing what is part of our tradition, and so nothing is hard. Maybe fasting on Yom Kippur, the one day of the year when we fast, that's hard, and the week that I have to give up bread and pasta is hard.
So if you could meet any Jewish figure from Jewish history, who would it be and why?
You're the 3rd person in the last, so earlier today, plus 2 weeks ago, someone asked me the same question. So you guys are sharing questions.
We actually came up.
We wrote our own, yeah.
We're something creative.
So I know because I said it for the same thing. Maybe I should mix it up this time.
I heard you say it before.
Theodor Herzl is the guy. He is the father of modern Zionism. He was living in the late 1900s, and It was his vision to create the homeland for Jews to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
Modern Israel.
Have you ever had doubts about your faith or a lesson taught within your faith?
Wait. I didn't understand. The doubts about my faith?
Like anything in your faith, like lessons or anything like that, have you ever had doubts about them?
I doubt everything. Okay? Everything. Like, I don't have, like, much faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? To be perfectly honest, it's like, you guys all probably have more faith than I do. I believe I communicate what it means to be a Jew well. I don't think that being a Jew has to be about faith.
It's more about the traditions and the faith.
I believe in that. I believe in tradition. I believe in heritage. I believe in people. I believe in what this faith has meant to generations and generations of people prior. So just because I don't share in that faith doesn't mean I don't have like a very deep care. Right? Someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, God's going to be mad about that. And God's going to be, and if you don't do that, you're going to like hell." Like, really? Like, I don't buy any of that stuff. Like,
I totally agree. But,
No, yeah, I totally agree.
it's like,
Yeah,
come
I
on,
agree.
really? Like, God is not watching me at all. If God is watching me, then God is wasting, God could have plenty of other things to be doing than watching me. So it's not doubt anymore. It's more like, I just kind of go in with eyes wide open about what we are and who we are and what our purpose is. That surprise you?
I will say.
surprised me.
All right.
Have you ever had an experience that strengthened your faith?
So again, faith is such, like, have I ever had experiences which have strengthened my belief in God? Yes. You know, anytime I'm like in kind of like nature that I am like overwhelmed by beauties of nature, I'm like, wow, this is something else. This is like extraordinary. And at those moments, I'm feeling very like spiritual. I'm feeling very like open to the majesty and possibilities of God. So yeah, that would be best. Nature. Top of a mountain, on the water, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, totally good that way.
And then the last one, what do you believe is the most misunderstood aspect of your faith, or what aspects of your faith do you think is commonly misunderstood?
That we killed Jesus.
That was the Romans.
Right. But lots of people think it was the Jews.
Really?
Yeah.
This was Jewish.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Why do you think, what's the persecution of Jews all about?
Yeah.
Killed our Savior.
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
I agree.
Just any form of discrimination just does not make sense to me.
Typically, discrimination makes no sense to me also. Like, I'm usually just like, come on. Like, why are you wasting so much of your good energy just to say bad things? To think about, like, just mind your own business.
Like, it doesn't even affect my life.
Right? It has nothing to do with you. Just you can choose to give energy being negative, or you can just ignore and not use up that energy. It's like discrimination makes no sense to me.
My grandma disagreed with it.
Except for the fact that whenever there's discrimination, typically it's coming from a place that a person feels as if they are threatened in some way, right? Why do you discriminate? Because, you know, if you let them if you let the Mexicans they'll take our jobs. So let's discriminate against the Mexicans. Like, obviously, I'm pleased to know that I'm being that's not
Facetious.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it's like but it's like usually, because oftentimes discrimination comes from a fear of what you lose as a result of the gaining. But then again, like there's the part about like, for example, like why people are so, like, when it comes to like gay marriage, why people are so hell-bent on like objecting, like just, no one's asking you to marry someone who's your own gender. Why are you making it such, because it's God, whatever, like, I want to vomit. Right? Anytime someone, by the way, feel free to record, anytime someone uses the Bible as their proof for what is something in this world, it's like absurd That is like the dumbest thing. The Bible is like, oh, see what it says here in the Bible, so therefore that means it's true. Like, oh, right. It also says that you should stone and kill your child if they are, disobedient.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
What's that?
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Spare the rod,
Spoil the child.
spoil the child.
It's a line in the Bible that
Not in maybe in the Christian Bible, which is very possible. No, that's because I didn't recognize it. It's a good line there. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Don't hit, instead love, like love more. That's beautiful. But at the same time, so the book of Leviticus says, or is it Numbers? Leviticus,
I think it's Leviticus.
which says, like, a wayward and defiant child, if you have one of those, you should kill them. Right? Oh, yeah, sure. So for some reason, you choose not to follow that law of the Bible, but the one that says, that gays, it's abhorrent to God, that one means everything. It's like so stupid that I just slam my head against the chair and want to vomit, because anytime anyone uses the Bible as their proof, it's like absolutely absurd.
Also, like, God's whole message is about, like, love, so, like...
Who cares? God doesn't have a message, because God didn't write the Bible.
That's true.
Right? So God has no message. You can choose to think God has a message for you, and that's fine, and I don't dispute that. But that doesn't mean that is God's message. It just means that that's how you choose to experience God's message.
Thank you so much,
Barbara
Rabbi.
wants to thank you for your time.
But I only say you're welcome to your group. It's my pleasure. It's nice to meet you guys.
It was nice to meet you too.